Welcome, Author Nation. We are in the secret lair of Curios. It's under a mountain, after a river,
and there are piles of gold bars.
Windowless room.
Yeah,
we've got Joe trapped here.
Yeah, cone of silence. So we're here to talk about what Curios is. They were at Author Nation, the show, so maybe some of you folks had a chance to talk to them. I know the Wide for the Win people were all gaga over you. Mm-hmm. But we can talk about the show a little bit, but really the whole idea of this episode is to help the community understand, one, what Curios is, and two, this partnership that we're working on with them to help you make money. Do you like money?
So first of all, I just want to say we're huge fans of
Well, introduce yourself.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah,
So I'm Grant. I'm the founder of Curios. I have a music and technology background, which I kind of brought together to start Curios. And, then it's recently evolved into also including authors, and we're eventually going to include comedians. I've been a technologist for over 20 years, and I love building digital products. I've got a bleeding heart for the creators, the independent creators. I essentially gave up my music career because I figured I couldn't make any money and got into technology instead. And I think that's a shame. Creators should be able to make money, and that's a big part of our mission here.
And then I'm Greg. I'm a co-founder of Curios. And if you're going to be using the platform, you'll likely be liaisoning with me in some sort of way. I handle all of the support and operations, try to handle any product improvement pieces as well. But similar to Grant, I have a deep concern for the state of the industry with all the digitization. I think that essentially the creators of the content are being squeezed out of any of the rewards of the content, and that is leading to less creative goods in the world. I am an avid reader, avid audiobook listener, and I don't want new content to be going away. I don't want authors to be getting day jobs and then writing in their spare time. I want them to be writing full time so that the world can be full of unique and interesting content. It's kind of the mission that drives me very strongly.
Yeah. And so what I was going to say is we're a huge fan of the show. This was our first year, going and attending in Vegas, and we weren't sure what to expect, but we were so well received by the community. We can't wait to go back this year in 2025.
Yeah, the author community there was amazing. A lot of independent authors, they kind of understand the industry, understand the importance of being independent. So it's really cool for us to meet everybody there and interact with everybody.
Yeah, when we were introduced by Willow, and she introduces me a lot of people. She gets a lot of opportunities, and part of my process with her is helping her evaluate some of these things. And we got talking, and I really saw immediately that there's this fit in what we're trying to do as a show, and that we're not focused on one platform. We're focused on here's all the opportunities. Now, the good and the bad of that is you're going to see things on our show first. Some of these things will come and go. That's just the reality of it. Mm-hmm. But the idea of folks being able to kind of figure out which pieces of the puzzle come together for their puzzle is super important for us to have folks like you at the show that are coming up with new models. So why don't we talk about what Curios is and help authors understand how it fits in the scope of Amazon and Spotify and BookFunnel and all the different things that they are kind of familiar with.
Yeah, I'll kick that one off. So Curios is built on what we call a direct-to-fan model, right? So instead of there being a bunch of middlemen, whether it's publishers or marketplaces or agents, who are all kind of controlling how your content gets out there and how you interact with your fans and knowing who your fans are, or readers in this case. We're just sort of cutting all that away and getting creators, authors to go direct to their readers to monetize them and engage with them. Engagement can come in many forms, whether it's, letting them have some free content, behind the scenes access, direct messaging with the author, the list kind of goes on. And so what we say
I just want to interject right there, with everything that's going on with TikTok right now.
Right.
Can you kind of give some examples of how and this may be something that's happening right now, it's folks that are on your platform that we're also driving a lot of their awareness through TikTok are able to, save the day with your direct model?
Yeah, I mean, Willow Winters is a great case study because she got deplatformed from YouTube, which could have been TikTok as well. And in her case, her readers were going to YouTube to listen to her audiobooks, even though YouTube is a video platform, for free. And of course, Willow's able to monetize that through the ads on YouTube. And when she got deplatformed, she had nowhere to go. And she's like, well, my poor readers can't access my content anymore. And she took a huge, generous leap by offering it for free for a week, all of her content for free for a week on Curios. And so anybody who was, mid-book was able to move right over to Curios, get their free content. The access can't be taken away. Willow can't be deplatformed. We have a can't be canceled policy. And it's a perfect solution. And what's even better than that is that unlike TikTok and YouTube, where you just see your follower count, you actually get the email addresses of your followers. They're subscribing to you. They're your readers. They're your fans. You do whatever you want to with them. So it's a perfect solution. TikTok and YouTube may be good for driving discovery because they have huge user bases, but they're really not platforms for you to own your readers. Your readers belong to YouTube and TikTok.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that kind of gets back to, so in your description of Curios, we talk about the direct, how we're direct from author to reader or listener if it's an audiobook. What direct actually means in our case is they are getting the content from you. And in getting the content from you, if they pay for it, you get 100% of that amount of money. If they pay $5 for the audiobook, you get the full $5. Also, what you get is the understanding of who they are, right? So you get the email address, and it's not just like we show you on a screen, you can't download it. You can download the email address. It's yours to keep, right? Again, direct, they're your readership. It's yours. It's kind of how we operate.
Yeah. So in the simplest, phrase, we call Curios a direct sales and engagement platform for creators.
So it's kind of where you are today. If I got to get on the platform, I can load up my content. Can you kind of walk through the different types of content that you can put up there? Because when I got in there, it's you've got membership stuff and you've got tickets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you think about monetization, there's a lot of ways in which you can monetize. We call them fans. I know authors oftentimes call them readers, but really that's what we want them to be, is fans of the author. It's yes, I'm your reader. I will read your book, but I'm also a fan in that I want to interact with you in other ways. And there are so many different ways to monetize that demographic. We're starting with the basics, which is selling content, and then going on to things from this is kind of an old school model, but it still works, where you can buy into a fan club membership annual, and that gives you certain, access behind the scenes, meet the author, get a signed copy of the book. And so that's just another way, memberships in which authors can monetize their fans. But there's even more than that. And, Greg can kind of talk about some of the verticals.
So just so I can put that into context, how would that compare to me if I was using Patreon for
Well, Patreon is subscription based first and foremost. So they have limited tools that you can use to interact, right? You get your Patreon page, you can then upload videos to them, you can give them some digital content, but it is subscription based, so you are going to be on a bit of a hamster wheel with that. Curios has the options for subscriptions, but we actually default more primarily to single time purchase, right? So the point of that is so that these the authors and the other creators that we work with can have passive incomes as opposed to active incomes, right? Authors do really well when they can have extra time to write their work, especially if their work is just out there making money for them. If your back catalog can be out there just constantly selling, that opens your doors to live the life that you want to as a creator. But if you're on a subscription model, you're going to be having to keep that subscription alive, and that requires a lot of work. But your original question, kind of for the types of content, one thing for us as the technologists, delivery of digital content is the same, whether it's an audio file or an ebook file or it's a video file or a QR code for a ticket. For us, handling that is we've got the solution in place to handle any form of digital content. So instead of us being okay, we have the solution for all digital content, let's just focus on one vertical. We know that the creators in these spaces are very creative people. So authors don't want to just give out the audiobooks and their ebooks, right? There are some times where they want to do a video or they have cool fan art that they want to display with it and bundle and package. So we mainly want the creator to be creative. We want those doors to be wide open for them to do that. And that's kind of what our platform does. You can keep it really simple. You can just upload an ebook, sell your ebook to your readership, collect all the money, get the email address, grow your fan base, and kind of stabilize your career, or you can get really creative with it. So that's kind of where we want the platform to sit.
And we're also working on integrating tools for selling physical products. Like physical,
Yes.
We've got print-on-demand partnerships and support for customers or fans or readers to enter their shipping address if you're shipping them a physical product.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I just think that, in the time that I've been in this industry and I've watched so many models change, you're people just being creative. And, you look at authors that were writing serialized content for free, and they would get people onto Patreon. And then that got them the opportunity, because now they have this audience. Publishers came to them and said, oh, now we want to give you a data.
Yeah.
And then to find out that they then could sell even more in audio, maybe, or so those kind of things are really, even when I was looking at it, I was like, oh, I could do tickets through here.
Yes, you can. Yeah. And actually the tickets have really unique features to it. We could talk about that for what Author Nation could do with that. Some really interesting stuff. The kind of the follow-up video delivery systems are sweet, but we don't have to cover that right now. One topic that I wanted to touch on, now I'm trying to remember what it was. Let's see what we were just talking about.
Well, just to wrap on TikTok.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, we actually published a press release some time ago announcing our creator fund when TikTok took down their creator fund. So they were paying creators who would produce good content that drove engagement. I forget exactly what the mechanism was. It was like $1 billion fund, and they shut it down. And so these creators, which were relying on that for money, aren't making money anymore. And so Curios launched its own creator fund, which a lot of people know about. We publicize it quite a bit. We put $1 million into that fund, and we're paying it out to authors and other creators who meet certain benchmarks of, basic stuff like signing up, filling out your profile, publishing a piece of content. And then as you get engagement, you meet certain tiers, and you can get up to $12,000, I think it is, from the creator fund that we have.
Yeah, and part of that effort is, allocating our marketing budget more in line with our ethos. So our ethos is the creator is first. We hold you at paramount to all other things. So that's why if you sell a book, we give you the entire funds of the book. In the similar vein, we were doing our marketing plan, and we realized, okay, to attract a certain volume of authors and musicians and other spaces that we kind of specialize in, it's going to cost this much to acquire them, and we're going to spend that much money, and we're going to spend it on Meta and Google, and then we're going to hope that they get convinced from our ads to come onto the platform. So in calculating this out, we had set aside our budgets, we set aside our agencies that we're going to use to do this, and we realized, okay, it's going to be about $1 million budget, cool, this is normal for a startup of our size. And then we were talking to some musicians about it, and they were like, yeah, instead of, spending the ad money to get me to come, just give me the money and I'll come. And we're like, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we switched it to be. So it's basically like, instead of us convincing you to try the platform, if you do try it, we'll give you the money we would have spent to convince you to do it. And that way, at the very least, if you hate it, you got money. You got paid the money we were going to try to get you to come to do it. So, it's, easy come, easy go. So,
and just to kind of put that home, we don't have an advertising budget. We haven't spent any ad dollars. Right. And we're seeing great growth from the author community, which we only launched a few months ago.
Yeah.
And we have, 1,000 authors now or something. And with zero advertising. So,
well, since you got on this, let's double click on that and go into this whole idea of what we're going to be doing around this. Because when we started talking for 2025, one thing that we're collectively excited about is this whole idea of let us educate the author community that we already have on how to use this platform. Now, it's not for everybody. Some people they should stay where they're at, but and this isn't going to be a solution that suddenly makes you rich, but the idea of, if this is something you want to try out, we can do two things. One, we can tap into this creator fund. Two is, as a group, as Author Nation, the part that I think we can bring to this is this idea of we're the thing with your platform is it's on the creator to find the audience.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit. Yeah.
So how can we as authors, and I think a lot of the things that we can do are kind of old school things that don't work on other platforms anymore, but will work here, that we can do to drive audience here and to build that critical mass that we're looking for, that will then get you to hit the bogeys that we have for the Creator Fund.
So there's two things, and this relates to those questions, but two things that just fundamentally kill me that happen in the industry. And one is that people grow their, quote, reader base or fan base on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever, but they don't own that audience. And so they're like, look at how big my audience is. Oh, just kidding. It got taken away from you. You now have zero audience. And Curios solves that. So there are great platforms out there to get discovered on: TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. They have huge, billion users. And if you hit the algorithm right, you'll go viral, you'll get noticed. Those people will discover you. What do you do then? And that's what matters. So, I hate people saying, follow me on TikTok, follow me on Instagram, because that doesn't really benefit you. What benefits you is if they follow you on Curios and subscribe to your email list, because then you can market to them. If you try to market to that follower on Instagram, Instagram's algorithm is going to limit and only show your post to about 10% of your followers. But if they follow you on Curios and you send an email out to your followers, it gets to 100% of your followers. So that's, thing number one that really bothers me, that is solved by Curios, that people need to embrace. Stop, building followings on the social platforms, build your following on Curios, use the social platforms to get discovered and drive people to your Curios account. The second one is these authors are doing all the work to build their audience and then promoting their new book to them, but by sending them to Amazon where they lose 50, 60, 70% of the sale, whatever it is, they're doing all the marketing work for Amazon. It's crazy.
Yeah, and oftentimes it's even deeper than that. They'll do the marketing work to send them, and they'll also be paying Amazon for advertisement to then get the book up. And so your total cost for a new book release, oftentimes you'll be close to break even, which is not really where you want to be for a book release.
So it's like you wrote the book, you found the fan, you got them to sign up, and you told them about your book sale. Shouldn't you keep 100% of that sale? Yes. So our recommendation, I know a lot of people go exclusive with Amazon through their program, and they're not allowed to list on other platforms. Our recommendation is that you first list on Curios your book for X number of days or weeks or months or whatever's appropriate. Market directly to your fan base that you've built. You're putting all the work in. Keep 100% of the revenue from those sales. And when you've exhausted your fan base and there's no more sales coming in, then put it on Amazon and let Amazon drive some discovery and some new customers.
Yeah. And that also does work if you have a traditional publisher. The traditional publisher, they have their net out with you. Sorry. It also works with a traditional publisher in the sense that the traditional publisher pays you from the net. Your percentage contractually is based on the net. So if Amazon is going to take 60% from an audiobook, then you and your publisher are splitting that 40%. So having the publisher release on Curios first lets you split from the 100% as opposed to splitting from 40%. And if it's an ebook, it's better. You have a 70% split you're working with. But it's one of those things where take the money from your readership and then, let the discovery platforms work past that. But, we want you to be successful authors, long story short.
I didn't totally answer your question because you were kind of asking about...
No, but I think we're on something that I think is really important. It's something that I've been observing, and this idea about what's going on in publishing, I think is really concerning. And I've talked about it before that, creators are the tiny village between two warring countries, and you get pissed because they keep driving your tanks through your village. They don't see you. You're just... something to hide your tank behind or drive through. And right now, I'm observing where the battle is. And it's really playing out on the audio side because I think, Amazon certainly is one on KP, right? But what they're seeing now, they got really scared with what Spotify has done and what they changed up with their audiobook subscription. And so now Amazon's trying to match things and do that. What I was hoping was going to happen would be that it was like when Apple came into the market and then the commissions reset, right? All of a sudden you could start making money. instead, what they're doing is they're a lot smarter now. And what they're figuring out is like, well, all we're going to do is we're going to get everybody into our 2 subscription services. So if you think about it from a listener's perspective, it's like, wait, if I can get 80% of my books just by having an Audible subscription and a Spotify subscription, like I'm pretty
you're
happy,
good.
right? But that sucks for the creator because now you're getting whatever they decide they're going to give you per minute out of some magic pool that they get to figure out.
Yeah, it's a total black box as well.
They don't realize how much power they have.
But it's a prisoner's dilemma, right?
Yes.
Right? Everyone's like, well, okay, well, you hold out.
Right.
Yeah, I get
I got
that.
a mortgage to pay.
No, I get that. And that's one thing that's kind of core to our platform too, is exclusivity is entirely the creator's choice on our platform. So if you have something that's working well for you, do not stop doing that. Like, keep your career with momentum. Just figure out the other ways that you can maybe monetize or tack on, right? Somebody who's got an ebook in Kindle Unlimited, your audiobook is open and fair game. Maybe consider getting an audiobook version of it, throwing that on Curios, and starting to grow that way. So obviously we don't want to, convince anyone to change anything. But there is one thing that we know, we're kind of in the data, looking at the data all the time, and that is that the digital content is growing at an alarmingly fast pace. Audiobooks are starting to take off more and more and more. It used to kind of be a subsection that wasn't as important. Ebooks as well. When ebooks first came out, obviously they were kind of nothing compared to traditional books. And now that vertical is growing vastly. So post-COVID, I think also even post-AirPod invention has released audiobooks to new spheres, right? And so authors that aren't as focused on the digital, it's time to A, focus on the digital, and then B, think about what the future of digital is. We're at a pivotal point here where you can start to A, take control of how digital content is distributed, or B, let the major platforms take control for you. So if you go the B route, it's going to go the same direction as the music industry, which is the industry we've been in for the last 3 years. And that industry means you're going to get $0. There's no money in the music industry. And authors suffer because musicians at least can play live shows and make money that way. Authors don't have that same ability to go turn on the live shows. So
Don't get advertising deals with big brands.
yes. So it's a little bit darker of a world. And you're seeing it, right? Kindle Unlimited, they pay per page read. Spotify is paying per minute listened to, I believe, something along those lines. So that is literally the music model being applied to books and authors with no back end, right? The back end for the musicians is the live shows, and other, TV commercial things like that.
Yeah, if you become the top of the pyramid, then you can negotiate deals. But
yes,
if you're just trying, like how most people get started, you're going to find it harder and harder to make the money to keep your business running.
Yeah. And there's another problem with the subscription model. This is what I call subscription fatigue. And this is on the reader side. It's like you've got your Spotify, your Amazon Music, your Apple Music, your Audible, your YouTube,
Netflix,
Hulu. The subscriptions go on and on. Next thing you know, you're up to $500 a month in subscriptions. You're like, wait a minute. I'm watching like one show here and reading a couple books here, and somehow I'm paying $500 a month. And if you look at the business model and calculate out how much the authors make through these programs, and instead just go ahead and sell the audiobook for $1. It was $1. The subscriber would end up paying less because, an average reader is going to read 1 or 2 books a month. They'll pay $2 a month, and the author will make way more money than they're currently making. So it's a win-win to get rid of the subscription model. I personally suffer from subscription fatigue and try to cancel any subscriptions anytime I can.
And I listen to the same 4 albums on Spotify anyway. So it's like, why am I subscribing for all this music when I just listen to the same stuff? Yeah.
Yeah. If you took I probably listened to, across my entire portfolio of listening, maybe 500 artists, right? 500 albums. If I could buy each of those for $1, for $500, I would have my entire library of music.
One other thing I think, obviously this is an author centric podcast, so there's not probably going to be as many readers listening to it. But I do know that the readers don't think that the authors are making the small cut that they're making.
Right.
Like when I buy a book, I'll buy a book to support an author. I'll be like, great, their new book is coming out. I will make sure I buy it. I'm deliberately buying and not waiting at the library for the book because I want them to get money, to be rewarded for the work, that the pleasure they're providing me. But when you come to find out, okay, if they have a traditional publisher and they're selling their book through a platform like Amazon, that the cut that the author is going to get for a $10 book is down to like something like 70 cents. It's like, that wasn't that great of a support, and I would like to do something different. And that's where even that Kickstarter world has kind of started to open up, because it's a route for authors to monetize their existing fan base.
I'd rather get the book for free from my friend when he's done reading it and like write a check for $2 to the author.
100%.
I'll make more money.
Yeah.
And I save money.
And oftentimes there aren't even avenues open to do that. It'd be like, I love this author, I want to give them some money, I want to say like, thank you for what you've given me, and there's not even like a road open for it, which is kind of interesting sometimes. So
well, here's the other thing with some of my clients I've talked to about how they need to think about when they're negotiating these deals with a company that wants to buy their rights is the old model of like, hey, I get an advance and I get this money and then I'm going to earn out of that, right? It's I'm getting just advances on what was going to be my cut of the book anyhow through their distribution. But we're in a different world today. Mm-hmm. And the idea of you should be looking for a premium on an advance from somebody that's going to take control of your work on a platform like Spotify or Amazon or any publisher, because what you have to get the current value of is you're not going to get the opportunity to connect with the fan directly, right?
Yep.
You should be saying, hey, listen, I need to be paid extra because if I did this on Shopify or WooCommerce or Curios, I would get this fan and then I could nurture them and there would be this lifetime value that I could extract.
Yes.
It's a horrible word, but you get my point, right? Is like there's this value that I'm losing because I don't get the time, I don't get T0 today to work with that fan. You get them.
Right.
You get to do that, right? And there's some folks that are like, oh, wow, I've never thought about it that way. It's like, yeah, that's worth a lot of money, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, you really nailed it. And this is, we call this owning your fans, right? You own your work, you own your fans. That's how you make money.
Yeah.
If you give up ownership of your work and ownership of your fans, everybody else is going to make money.
That's right. Yeah, you have a limited upside, and then also you lose your compounding factor. You don't necessarily lose the compounding factor in the sense that if your book gets large reach, people then can maybe learn your name and then they can maybe come on later. But the major compounding point is each fan that you pick up independently that you can then own is a fan that you can then continue to, extract. But that's a bad word, but continue to deliver content to. Because as a consumer, I don't feel extracted from because I'm getting your content and I love your content. So it's like, I want your content. I want to pay you for the content, So it's one of those things where the fans usually want it, the authors usually want it, and the platforms are like, nope, neither of you can have it, So
how does this come back to Author Nation and, the huge community of authors there, and how can we help them? You know better than we do what their complaints are and what their needs are.
Well, I think what we're looking to do, and this, for anybody that's watching this, we're going to be partnering up and rolling out basically an onboarding process and a group promotion process. So we don't have we're not ready to share all the details, but think about what we have here, and that if you're an author that is contemplating something like Shopify or WooCommerce or going wide, that we can probably have this as one, if not the single thing to use, be one of those options that you use. And in doing this, you can tap into this creator fund, right? You can actually get the working capital to make this thing work. And we can then collectively do promotions together. So we can focus, once we get people that are interested in this from Author Nation, and we'll do this inside the community. Once we get folks that are interested in, say, urban fantasy, we can do an urban fantasy promotion. We can focus on having something that's fun for fans where we're driving people to this platform and then triggering things in this creator fund.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple of benefits of going with Curios versus something like Shopify or WooCommerce is that you're not going to get stuck with monthly fees. I think Shopify's cheapest plan now is $40 a month. They used to have a $10 a month plan. It's pretty expensive now. And you also don't have to bother setting up your own website, right? Curios is out of the box, does everything for you. And it's free. We haven't really talked about that.
Yeah.
Right? So Curios is free for all creators forever. we are going to be rolling out what we call, premium features that if you want to use, you can pay a few bucks a month to us to use them. But you'll always be able to list your content for free, build your email base, your fan base for free. We're never going to take that away.
Yeah.
And that's incredibly valuable to any creator.
And one thing interesting about the Shopify model is, depending on what you're selling, right? If you're selling a physical book on your Shopify, yes, you know how to put that book in the mail. You can then deliver it. If you're going to be delivering the digital content, it can be a little bit trickier to do. Yeah. We do specialize.
Solutions.
Yeah, there are marketplace solutions that are good ones out there. BookFunnel is a great one.
You got to set that
yes.
up. You don't have to.
It's that's another fee. Exactly. Curios does specialize. Our entire platform is built on digital rights management, ensuring that only the purchaser of the content is the only access of that content. So that's like what our bread and butter is. It's what we specialize in. So in one platform, let's call it 5 minutes, you can get an audiobook or an ebook if you have the file set up. Within 5 minutes, you can have it up online on a dedicated website or dedicated page for sale, where you can be monetizing within 5 minutes, collecting your fan base, everything like that. You're not setting up a Shopify site. You're not figuring out how to program your sales features or different plugins. You're just up and running right away. So if you're kind of thinking about, okay, how do I get started? How do I sell my first book? How do I go wide, right?
How do
5
I
minutes.
Email list.
5 minutes later, you can at least have your first touch point, and then you can work on the Shopify sites too. We don't want to say we're the single platform that you should use. We think authors should do whatever it takes to be successful, but we do want to be the fastest and easiest way for you to get that online. And then you can kind of grow from there. Grow with what your fans want, grow with what your readership's looking for, grow to the places that they're looking for things, but that's a good starting point. And then another touch point that I want to take on, it's not necessarily related, but it's, if you are thinking about going traditional publishing and you're in the early stages, the traditional publishers really only want to take you if you have a strong fan base. They're not going to take somebody with any risk. And the risk is that they have to do the marketing for you. They want you to do the marketing for them so they can sell the books, they can take their cut, right? So you get better negotiating power when you have a strong email list or when you have sales proof or proof of your kind of content. So even if you're getting something like 40 sales from friends and family and aggregating that on a place like Curios, that does give you a little bit more negotiating power when you're trying to get an agent or trying to get somebody to get you to a publisher, right? So we want to try and stack the chips on the side of the creator. You have negotiating power now. You have your own email list. As that email list grows, you know exactly how much they're going to have to put up for an advance to make it worth it for you to stop being independent. And that's kind of the world that we want creators to live in. We want you guys to be the ones in control. And right now, it can probably feels like you're not. It's like, well, what are you going to do? Not use Kindle Unlimited? Right. Not use Audible? Like there's no real options not to.
Yeah. I mean, and it's like, don't think that these guys aren't just going to keep taking the same playbook around.
Or squeezing the screws tighter. It's it's like they're at a certain percentage now, then they'll add some delivery fees here, they'll up the delivery fee there. They have full-time MBAs and giant consulting firms that are figuring out.
They'll add a service fee, a COVID-19 fee.
Yeah. They're literally calculating how much pain they can inflict on you without you leaving the platform to a science. And now you're trying to fight that. And that's hard to fight.
Well, here's another thing. I've talked about this about Amazon, that when you go back in time, like, hey, watch what's going on here with advertising. They finally realized how much money they're making here. Mm-hmm. Making sure creators understand where the money was coming from. And when I follow their quarterlies, and if you look at where they're planning on investing and what that company is focused on, it's not retail.
Right.
It is on maintaining their AWS business and staying relevant in the future in AI. And the money I know this is like way off the topic of author and creator, but it's like those guys are focused on putting billions and billions of dollars into companies like Anthropic and investing in the hardware that they need to be relevant to their big customers like Netflix. And how are they, at some point they're going to be like, why are we even selling this stuff anymore? Why? So it'll be a good decision for shareholders.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
As somebody owning a share of stock of Amazon, you're like, good call. Yeah. Good call, Andy.
Yeah. And that's exactly a decent touch point too, is that Amazon's focus is not on the author. Their first focus is on that shareholder, and then it kind of trickles down from there. And that author is very far down the list on their priority chain. Same thing kind of goes for a company like Patreon. They're on a Series F. They have VCs on VCs on VCs, and they need to get paid out. And there's only one way they're getting paid out, and that is from your content. It's not from their content. It's from your content. So the squeeze is always kind of coming with those companies, you know? So it's just something we want to watch out for.
So a couple things that we touched on but didn't conclude on. One is, so the Creator Fund, we have some authors actually who join our platform and list their books for free and make more money from getting paid out by the Creator Fund than if they were to try and sell the books on Amazon, because we pay out based on performance metrics of how many people claim your book and read your book and stuff like that. So if you offer it for free, you can actually make a lot of money through our Creator Fund.
So two things. One, we probably should step through a few of those ideas, but one thing I want to touch on is this is really kind of tactical. So in the past, when I've had somebody kind of spin up a Shopify store, my focus has always been like, maybe you're on KU. We're not trying to get KU people over there. We're trying to find an entirely new audience. So we're starting from scratch. We would typically run, maybe it would be paid advertising, but to say a free book. Right? And typically how I would do this would be free, first place we're going to land them is on BookFunnel, get them their free book. Now we got their email address. Next thing we would do is send them a coupon for a book on the Shopify site.
Yes.
So we get them into Shopify and understanding that ecosystem and realizing they probably are already in that ecosystem. Now I got them on there. Then I'd start marketing them paid books. Based on what I just kind of laid out, how would we do something like that with Curios?
Yeah. So I've got a couple of, plays in our playbook. First, as an aside, we're directly integrated with BookFunnel. So if authors use BookFunnel, we're seamlessly integrated already, and you get to keep all those readers and benefits of their platform. So there's a couple things you could do. The first is actually very similar to that playbook, except instead of doing it through Shopify, you're doing it through Curios, and you're saving that monthly fee, right?
And setup time.
And setup time.
Yeah.
But the second is maybe a little bit more different. So I talked earlier about how if you plan on being exclusive with Amazon, with their Audible for audiobooks, you still should get your audiobook on Curios, exercise your right to market to your fans and keep those profits and then move it over there. So that's an important play. And then the other play is kind of a more creative one, where you might only be selling your physical book on Amazon or your ebook or whatever, and you don't want to list it on Curios because you're exclusive with Amazon. It's already a book that you already have that agreement with, so you can't go backwards. But you can offer your readers something else, like an extra chapter that wasn't published with the book, or author's notes, or
sneak peek into the next in the series, whatever it is, right?
And offer it for free on Curios, because that gets you into the Creator Fund. It gets you ticking up the performance metrics. And if you hit that benchmark, not only are you going to get paid out from the Creator Fund by giving away free content, you're going to build an email database. So it's a win-win-win.
Yeah, and actually, if I wouldn't mind taking a crack at that exact same question too. So you laid out, okay, you have your KU group, and now you're going for a different group. That's the current playbook you have. What would that look like now with Curios tools? Basically, you would enter your email, or as a management company, or the author would enter it into studio.curios.com, upload that same free book, right? And then they would hit publish. They get their own dedicated web page of that book and the offering that book. It can be free. And then instead of driving them to the Shopify site, you then drive them to that page on Curios. They still get the book. You get the same benefits. You get the email address. You get the reader going to your dedicated page. And then you can kind of go from that what you want, right? You can then market them to the second book that becomes paid, or you can send them a coupon because you have the email address. You can send them a coupon saying like, hey, here's a coupon that's going to activate for all the works on the Curios site. So it just depends on how lean you want to go, right? It offers you a very lean path where for $0, you're going to be able to get the same exact effect that you could get from the Shopify BookFunnel combo, but costs you nothing. And in fact, you'll get the $50 because you'll meet the criteria for the $50, which is basically sign up and publish something and promote. Sign up, publish, promote. So if you do those 3 steps, you get $50 from us. Your first 10 sales or 100 claims, which is likely to happen with a free book, especially if you're a popular author, you get $100. So you'll probably be at $150, out the gate. and zero cost. So your net
email addresses that you probably don't have already.
Exactly. So your net is going to be more positive in a more efficient way. That's not to say that you shouldn't, still go down the path of starting your own Shopify accounts, get as much web real estate as you can. So in search, when you search an author name, you're showing up all over the place. But it is a way for you to then do that exact same playbook incredibly efficient. You're not having to pony up money up front to then accomplish this task, right? You can do it for free up front. And then you see how it works. And if it's a complete failure, you have trouble promoting your book or whatever it is, easy come, easy go. Like I kind of mentioned before, $0 cost. You got $150 from us. Great. Kind of a win-win scenario. So.
No, I love it. And that's why we're so excited about playing this, because I think now that we have an understanding of, what the tool set is here, we can do things that used to work.
Yeah.
Really well and don't, mainly because of how the platforms have changed.
Yep.
And that listen, they don't want us to be building our own audience. They want us to be paying them for advertising. So,
and they don't want you giving books away for free either.
No,
Amazon hates free. They hate under the $3 is what it is, $2.99. Like everything switches.
Well, we have a massive list building strategy, giving away free audio.
Yeah.
A free audio prequel.
Yeah.
Right. For a series.
Yep.
Is a massive, massive lead magnet. Now it can be expensive because you have to hire a narrator and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But you cannot do that. You can't put that stuff on those platforms for free.
Right.
I guess now you could put it in and you would get subscription, but it's like that's not the point of what you're trying to do. Is you're trying to give somebody a low risk
entry,
like, and then they listen to it and they get a beginning, middle, and end. It only took an hour. Mm-hmm. I like that narrator's voice. I like the story. If you're a good writer, you left a hook. So now they're like, I gotta know.
Oh yeah, the cliffhanger at the end, and then like what's happening? Yeah, and then for $2, you can figure out what's gonna happen. That's easy. Yeah. Especially as a reader, if you know the money's going to the author, it's like that makes that trigger pull so fast. Like, they just gave me this enjoyable thing for free, and for $2, I'm gonna get another enjoyable piece of content. It's all going to the author. I'm cool. I'll do that all day.
Here's an interesting thing. We have doing this on a Shopify site where you can download these free books.
Yeah.
We have the tip function.
Yeah.
And people will tip.
Yes.
So that is something we're going to be adding. We don't have it yet, but we are going to add it.
Yeah. And it's a good feature there. Yeah. There is one risk though too, and that is the risk of downloadability. Depending on how you deliver on Shopify, you might be delivering a file that is an owned file. And if it's an owned file on the consumer end, I love the book, I share it with my brother, you don't get the email address of my brother.
Right.
You do get the follow through of him being interested in the author, but you do lose that email address and you lose that direct access. Whereas on Curios, our digital rights system is super solid. So free books, everyone can come and get it for free, but you cannot give it away to other people. Just you get to listen to this book. And if you were to give it away, you have to give away your email address, which people aren't as prone to do.
Yeah.
People will give you a login and a password all day. Netflix had that massive wide-scale problem, right? Audible has that problem. I kind of share my Audible passwords with people. But if you are giving them your email address, that's something people don't really want to do, especially for a free piece of content. It's like, you just get it for free yourself. Just go put your email in over here.
Go over here.
Yeah, so.
Awesome, guys. Well, this has been really informative and really appreciate taking the time to share everything with us. Why don't you tell folks where they can find you and
Yep, of course. And thanks to you for coming out to Austin. It's great to meet you again.
Enjoy the weather I brought you.
Well, I was actually just in Nashville where it was 8 degrees. So this is...
Joe comes down from Chicago, and we have the first snow in Austin we've had in something like 6 years or something like that, So it's just like he brought the front with him.
Anyways, but yeah, Curios.com is our website. Studio.curios.com is where creators go to sign up. And if you just go to Google and search for Curios Creator Fund, you'll get directly to the page where you can sign up and start earning money from the Creator Fund.
Yep.
And
Instagram is @JoinCurios. Feel free to follow us there as well. So we've got a lot of tutorials. And then, as mentioned, if you're looking for someone direct to talk to, I'm your first point of contact. So greg@curios.com, or if you hit support@curios.com via email, both will kind of end up coming to me, and I'll be happy to talk to all of you about the platform. See what we can do together.
Yeah, and we'll be rolling out some webinars and some stuff in the community. Kind of coming off of the after party to help you guys understand how to use this, how to get on platform, how to get comfortable with the tools. And then we're going to be doing some group marketing so that we can,
Yeah.
into this fund and get this audience built and help help you find your fans and connect with them. That's what the show's all about.
Yeah, we want to kind of see if we can figure out ways to kickstart what we call a strong independent career as an author. See if we can kickstart those things. And the last thing is just word of gratitude to the community of Author Nation. I mean, incredible community. Love the risks you guys are taking right now by going more independent and being more curious about it, being independent and taking control and going wide with your work. We think it's the right way. We think that this is the moment in time where you have to make a stand for your content. If you don't, somebody else is going to grab it and you won't have any control over it. So take the stand now. Let's control what digital content is and how it's distributed in the future.
As they say, content is king.
Amen. All right. Bye.
Bye, everybody.